Welcome to Engineering Success. I'm your host Jamie Hutton, and in each episode we'll bring you an influential and inspiring guest from the world of engineering, science, technology and mathematics. Sharing fascinating insights into their career journeys, we'll explore the challenges they face, how they keep motivated and what the future holds for them. Speaking candidly about the engineering and other STEM-related industries, we'll find out what's made these successful people successful. This is Engineering Success. Welcome to episode number 25 of Engineering Success with our very special guest, Dr Nike Folayan MBE. Nike is a technical director at leading engineering and consultancy firm WSP, but is more widely known as a co-founder of AFBE-UK, Association for Black and Minority Ethnic Engineers. AFBE-UK was founded by Nike and her brother, Dr Ollie Folayan, in 2007, and through it there has been tremendous growth in the inclusion of black and minority ethnic people in engineering. Nike is one of the leading voices and advocates for more representation of BME engineers in industry and works relentlessly through AFBE UK to support underrepresented individuals. AFBE UK has now actively supported over 20,000 individuals seeking work in engineering and engineering related subjects, whilst also engaging a mix of communities across the UK ranging from companies to engineering institutions and schools to develop and showcase the engineering talent available within the BME community, thereby contributing to the wider engineering talent pool. Nike has also been awarded an MBE for her contribution to diversity in engineering. Hi Nike, and welcome to Engineering Success. It's great to have you on the podcast finally after a couple of years. So can we start right at the beginning, and how did you first get involved in the engineering industry?
So for me, it was television, believe it or not. I always was fascinated about how, you turn on your telly and you see these little people. And I really used to think they were inside the television box. Yeah. And I used to poke, because we had this old television with the green printed circuit boards at the back. So I used to try and poke the board through the vents to see if maybe the people might come out or something. Right. And so that's what my interest in television started to be. And then I, my dad used to say, oh, well, the aerial, is connected to the television. And I'm like, what is that? But that was what got me into engineering, and that's what I didn't know it was engineering, of course, but that's what really kind of got my interest. Like, okay, how does this really, really, really work? And then I liked maths a lot. I liked physics a lot. I didn't have a clue what was going on with chemistry, though. I just thought abstract. I don't understand it, but I knew that I wanted to do something that I could actually feel and see an impact. So that's what really piqued my interest in engineering. But what has carried that interest on, again, is television, because I then went on to study electronics engineering and actually do a PhD in antennas, believe it or not, so aerials. Okay. And so just to understand how signals work. So that's my brief story of what got me into engineering.
So I take it your route into engineering was A-levels and university degree and onto your PhD.
That's right.
Was all that full time? Did you have a placement in that?
I didn't have a placement. Funnily enough, I did some work experience, maybe 2 weeks work experience. Right. I remember working but it wasn't like a proper work experience. What I did was I got a job at the time. People used to make up computers, so you'd buy the different parts and build it up into. So I worked in a shop where they did that, and they fixed computers, so adding additional RAM and stuff like that. So I did that, but I don't know if you could consider that a proper placement or anything like that. So but yeah, that was
is,
my experience because I liked fixing things. It just seemed perfect for me, regardless of the fact that it wasn't quite what people would consider the most prestigious sort of placement to do.
Yeah. So what would your number one piece of advice be for somebody thinking about a career in engineering?
I think if you're thinking about engineering, and there's so much online now that you can find out about. There are so many ways. For example, this podcast, you can find so many types of engineering, so many types of people that studied it and get like real insight into their personal experiences. But also, if you want to study engineering, especially if you're female, find people within your network that can support you. There's so many amazing organizations doing so much amazing work around supporting people, but also supporting women into engineering.
Yeah.
So there's always one you can find and get some advice and support to study it. But the main thing is don't let anyone put you off. It's not for boys, it's for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So how do you think we can enthuse this next generation to want to become, future engineers?
I think what's really important is role models. We need to show people that, it's not, you don't have to have a super duper, extraterrestrial brain to study engineering. You can just be a normal person like me and you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can be a really good engineer as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's the main thing. I think people are scared of it because they don't know it, they don't understand it, they don't, I was looking at Twitter a few weeks ago and someone says, what's an engineer? And an engineer put a comment saying, I don't know. And I've tried to describe it to my family. That's because it's so broad. And I always say, whatever you're interested in, there's some engineering in there. So, just find the engineering that suits you and get involved.
Yeah. So do you think engineering could promote itself better as an industry?
Oh gosh. Oh yes, definitely. I think we do ourselves a disservice the way that we, when people think about an engineer, they think about someone that fixes your boiler, or construction work, and there's nothing wrong. And those are those parts of engineering. Those are parts of engineering, but that's not the whole of engineering. So I think we have an image problem in terms of the way that we see engineering. And you see on the underground all the time, you want to use, maybe even sometimes you want to use the ladies, and they say, oh, it's broken, we've called the engineer. And I'm just like, specific. So I think from that perspective, but also from the perspective of an inclusive industry. Engineering is not seen as inclusive. At the moment, I believe that 12% of women in engineering, and so the majority are men. From an ethnic minority perspective, there's only 9% of us in the industry. And so we need a better image, but we need to work internally to change that image by being a bit more inclusive and not expecting an engineer to be a certain type of person. So for example, I was watching a great engineer who I know, Shrook, and she did this fantastic video on Twitter, and someone had said, you can't be an engineer, something like that. And I was like, she's a fabulous engineer.
She is,
and so we need to change our perception, even as an industry, of how we see people that are promoting engineering. A lot of people promoting engineering get a lot of, bad press in some instances within their organizations because they don't feel supported by the organizations for what they do. So that needs to change. Lots of work. Lots of work.
Do you think the institutions could do more? Because obviously there's a lot of institutions that are, engineering focused. Do you think they need to do more as well?
I definitely think so. I definitely think that they need to do more. Even the standards for professional registration, I think there needs to be a lot more emphasis on what the engineer actually does outside of the design work, the surveys, the things like that. I think there needs to be more emphasis on how that engineer impacts their local community. I mean, some people, there's so many, I live in Croydon, there's so many engineering companies in Croydon, but if you ask the engineers working in these companies if they know one local school, some of them would struggle. And you're thinking, hang on, there's a school 5 minutes. I mean, have you ever thought that maybe you should go there and talk to the young people there?
Absolutely.
What are you doing? So I do think that there is a lot of work for institutions to do. I know that they are because I'm on the board of Engineering UK.
Yeah.
And I know that we have the Tomorrow's Engineers Code, which we're trying to get organizations to sign up to, right. To encourage people to kind of promote engineering in a more inclusive manner. And, you know, think about it from an impact perspective, how many of those are conversions into engineering. But I think that the institutions need to champion it a bit more. Yeah. At the moment, they've started to pay attention, thank goodness for that. But I think that there's so much more that they could be doing, especially from the older generation perspective. Just because you've achieved it and you are now an engineer doesn't mean that it doesn't matter what you do with your time. And that time includes encouraging CEOs, encouraging, you know, those people they invite to all their seminars and webinars and all those conferences and whatever, to really engage with the communities that they work in a way that's meaningful, in a way that when you ask them which school is 5 minutes away from you, they don't look at you blank and think, you know, I don't know, but my organization does X and Y.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely agree with that. Yeah. So what do you think are the biggest challenges ahead of our engineering industry?
The biggest challenge is sustainability.
Right.
We know that we need more engineers in the UK. There's so many reports that say we need, I think it's 250,000 engineers or something more to plug the skills gap. So I think that the big challenge for us is sustainability. And how we plug that sustainability gap is diversity and inclusion, in my view. Yeah. And that's by encouraging people, regardless of background, to consider careers in engineering, and not just from a studying perspective, but to actually recruit them in the industry. Yeah. So Engineering UK did a report that showed that if you're Black in particular, you're only 58% likely to be employed within an engineering job.
Right.
So that is an issue.
Yeah.
And so for us, the key challenge is sustainability. Another challenge that's come up, especially with COVID, is innovation.
Yeah.
We're so used to talking about the innovative ideas, but most of these ideas that we're actually working on now have been around for a while, either in the military or whatever.
Yeah.
So they are innovative, no offense, but I think that we need to be thinking, especially after COVID, of how we innovate for the better of the world, for the better of net zero targets, things like that. At the moment, sometimes we have innovation for just innovation's sake, or because it looks cool. You know, everyone talks about AI,
absolutely,
robotics, blah, blah, blah. But how we use those innovations in a sustainable way, considering net zero and all those really, really key things for the planet to exist, we need to be thinking about. So sustainability and innovation, to me, are key areas. And I think that the way to do that is by considering diversity and inclusion, because, you know, diversity of experiences means diversity of thought. Diversity of thought means better creativity, better innovation. So,
Absolutely. And so in engineering, you know, I think it's important that we have mentors. Have you had any mentors along your journey? And do you continue to mentor people?
Oh gosh, yes. I have so many mentors, and what I've been able to do is that I've got literally a mentor for everything. So I actually sometimes just go online, look for people that I think could potentially be my mentor. Right. And I obviously call myself the stalker. I go around looking for people that I can kind of get you know, a conversation with, a coffee with. So for example, every interview I go to, if it's either job opportunity, whatever, I speak to a mentor about it. Right. I remember getting an opportunity that I thought was great, and I called up one of my mentors, and he's like, "Okay, this isn't you. Sorry, but this isn't you." And I'm just like, "Well, it sounds great." It's not you. And so you need mentors for every area. Yeah. And some of my mentors are engineers. quite senior engineers, but some of them are not. Some of them are people that have quite, maybe in years they're younger than me, but they're people that I kind of look up to in different ways. So I would call on the likes of Anne-Marie if I had something that I wanted to do and I wasn't sure. And straight away she'd give me some great advice. Or sometimes one day I call her up and she's like, okay, this is what you need to do. So for me, mentoring is really, really important. I mentor a lot of people as well. But what I found over time is that those people have mentored me in certain areas. So I'd call up the likes of Mimi, who you know as well, and ask them for advice on certain things. So for me, mentorship is really, really important, and it's really important to understand what your key, what a mentor is for, what that particular mentor can offer you, and do it that way. So that's I'm really a champion for mentoring and being mentored. And obviously most organizations have a mentoring scheme as well. But I think that people rely on those too much rather than thinking about what do you actually need to progress and who do you need to be talking to, and find the people, because when you have to do the work of actually finding a mentor, then you take it a bit more seriously.
And also, if it's someone who's not working for your company, they have a different perspective, don't they, rather than following the company line.
That's right. That's absolutely it. That's absolutely it.
So how do you keep yourself motivated then?
Well, I've got a 21-month-old that keeps me motivated regardless of whether I want to be or not. But what I do is I actually reach out to people. Or I sometimes I even just go online and see what the amazing things people are doing. That encourages me to keep going, because bearing in mind that for the last 15 years I've been kind of co-founder of AFBE, and after 15 years you kind of start to experience kind of burnout. You kind of think, are we really moving forward? But then you see something and you think, oh gosh, AFB started. There's so many other amazing organizations doing amazing work now than there was when we started. There's STEMazing doing amazing stuff. There are organizations like BB STEM doing amazing stuff. There's BPIC, there's just so many, the plethora of organizations. And so I kind of feel like every time I feel discouraged, I remember that there are people carrying on the work. So we need to carry on because this is really important. So from a work perspective, how I continue to get motivated is I happen to have a great company mentor who I chose myself.
Right.
And I've had to, on many occasions when I felt frustrated and sad, I've had to kind of call him up. There was a time I was having a really hard time with someone at work, and I just called him up and I said, I really need to speak to you. And he's like, yeah, okay, let's go. And in 5 minutes, he gave me such great advice because I was really discouraged, it just kind of changed that perspective. So again, it goes back to keeping motivated requires you putting the effort in to find people that you think can motivate you, to find people that you can talk to look at where you started and where you are now. When we started FBE, there was 4% of people from ethnic minority backgrounds. There's 9% now. I truly believe that AFB has had that impact. And
absolutely.
So it keeps you keep going, because you're seeing the lives of people change. You're meeting people who you've personally helped, who you're part of their journey, and you're part of their story. And that means you have to carry on. You really don't have a choice.
Absolutely. So who do you think's been your biggest inspiration?
My biggest inspiration, I have to say, is my dad.
Right.
He's late now, but my biggest inspiration has to be my dad, because he made me believe that as a woman, you can do anything. I always call him, he was one of the first feminists I know, because he never had this perception that as a girl, you couldn't do X and Y or whatever. So I continue to, and then I have great role models like my brother Ollie, who you know, who continue to give me continue to inspire me to think that even when I'm discouraged, because a number of times you just get really kind of disheartened about situations. So those people, they're just there to encourage you, and they're there to for me, they've been there to kind of remind me of what's important, and that's about impact, making an impact in everybody's life. And it's not just about me, it's about everybody.
Yeah. So, you've mentioned it, you're the co-founder of the AFBE, which promotes engineering to obviously diverse community. How did it start? How did you get started, and what do you actually get involved with? What do you guys actually do?
So how did it start? It started back in 2007, right, at a time when there was a lot of gang culture, as in now, in London. But there was also an issue around myself and Ollie being in organizations where we couldn't see anybody that looks like us in leadership positions.
Right.
And I personally was having a really hard time. I had a demon for line manager. And because of that, it was really, really tough. But and then Tony Blair, who was the PM at the time, came out and said that Black culture was responsible for crime. At which point I thought, I need to rethink my profession. I should be a gangster. I'm in the wrong profession because that's what my culture is about, right? So we got together and we thought, we are going to change the stereotype. We are going to make a difference. And so what AFB has done is a cradle to grave approach. So we start a primary school supporting young people through our program, Next Gen, and secondary school, Next Gen and Making Engineering Hot is a program that we run. And those programs are really focused on social mobility. So we choose schools based on certain criteria. So in the London area, we'd use the London poverty line to decide which schools we go to. And we'd look at Ofsted reports to decide what kinds of schools we engage with, so that we ensure that we're meeting whole communities to support them through engineering, and this is regardless of ethnicity. And then we look at universities and we help them with our program called Transition, which helps them to build the skills required to transition from university into the world of work, and another program called Real Projects, where we talk about real projects in the industry. So something like HS2. You hear HS2, but as a university student, you probably have no idea what this actually means. So what we do in that program is we say, hey, this is what HS2 is about. As an engineer, when you're thinking of HS2, these are the bits you have to. And that really helps students, because, I remember going into industry thinking I knew everything. And on my first day, realizing I knew absolutely nothing. But this is an opportunity for them to learn about what's actually happening in the industry. But what it helps them to do is have talking points when they go to interviews as well, to say, actually, I know about this particular thing. So we've had a young person, he had an interview with an engineering company, and he was so grateful he'd come to Real Project, because he said, I was able to go to my interview and talk as if I was some sort of expert on this particular thing, and I got the job. So those things are really important. But we also have things about the culture of our industry. So we have something called Roundtable, where we actually discuss the culture of our industry, and we allow people to actually vent, tell their stories. And what we do with that is we gather the outcomes and report it in, taking out the identity of the individuals, but reporting to our organizational members, so that they can understand the cultures within engineering in particular and what people are experiencing, so that they can encourage and improve inclusion. Recently, we started a leadership program to look at leaders and how we can start to get to those positions, because back in 2017, we did a survey of the top 100 engineering companies and found that only 0.03% had board members from Black backgrounds. And even when you combine it with the Asian community, it was less than 3%. So we know that there are issues around leadership. And so what AFBE wants to do is support that. And obviously, a lot of people know about in universities, there's only 144 Black professors in all UK universities. So even in academia, there are issues there. And so what we try to do is find those issues, and rather than just pointing the finger and complaining, try and do something to help those communities, to support those people who want those positions.
Brilliant. So, and I know AFB is holding its first conference, AFB Live, this year. It takes place on the 22nd of April at the IET in London. Can you tell us a bit more about the event, the speakers that you have, and why it's so important that people within industry, the whole of industry, support this and come along and network and meet people?
No, thank you. AFB Live is a brainchild of our 15th year of existence. And the idea is to have a whole day where we, one, showcase what AFB does, but also give people opportunities to take themselves through the process. So from the attraction piece, to the recruitment piece, to the retention piece, which no one wants to talk about, to the progression and leadership piece, but also talk about entrepreneurship as well.
Yeah.
So there are a series of activities all through the day, discussion panels and roundtables. There's a specific HR session called Ethics of Engineering, where we talk about historical issues around recruitment of diverse people within engineering. We have some amazing speakers. We have Dame Ottiline Laser of CEO of UKRI. We've got Anne-Marie Maffidon Countdown. Countdown standing, amazing person. We have Yewande Akinola coming. We have Otis Dealey, who's the Gadget Show host of Gadget Show. He's going to be there. We have Nguna Nadamu, who's a BBC reporter as well. And then in the evening, we have an amazing conference dinner, and we'll have John Amaechi, a fireside chat with John Amaechi, who I hope everybody knows who he is. He's an amazing fellow. And then we have Dr. Shola Shogwamimu as well in the evening, giving the keynote address. So it's a packed day of amazing people. You have the likes of Ronnie Savage, who is just a superhero, to have started her own engineering firm. And so the day is going to be amazing. But also we have a next big idea competition, which will look at innovation and engineering and diversity and inclusion and solutions for the pandemic. And we have a great lineup of judges. It's going to be a Dragon Den styled event. And we have some great prizes from RS grassroots components, cash prizes for students, mentoring opportunities for professionals. So lots and lots and lots. There's something for everybody. And for me, it's more important that organizations show their commitment to diversity and inclusion by participating in stuff like this, by coming along to meet some amazing students who will be coming along with their CVs and finding out that, hey, you know, it's not because there's no talent in these communities. They're there. You just need to see them. And we're creating a platform for people to see.
So how many tickets are available? Do people have to get in early? I know there's tickets that are being sold already. You know, I think it's going to be a sellout. You know, you know, the quicker people can buy the tickets, the better. You know, is there a specific number of tickets that
yes, so we're expecting 600 people, and the tickets are already going really fast. There is obviously the conference dinner is a bit more of an intimate affair. So we're expecting around 200 people for the evening session, but throughout the day we'll have around 600 people. Early bird tickets are available at the moment, so if people want to go and get them, I don't actually know the date when they change, but I think it's very soon because the tickets are going really quickly. So I think people should definitely get their tickets quickly, and you know, just find out about the various on the website. There's the www.afblive.com, which has information on the speakers, has information on the conference dinner. Oh, at the conference dinner, we also have Yolanda Brown. And if you're a mum, you watch CBBCs, you'd have seen her. She's an amazing talent, and she'll be entertaining us in the evening. She's a MOBA award winning jazz player. So fantastic day of celebration and kind of thinking about what we want to do as an industry to promote diversity and inclusion.
So is the daytime and the dinner, is that open for everybody, or is the dinner just for members?
That's open for everybody.
Brilliant. So get your tickets quick because it's all going to go very fast.
That's right.
I'm looking forward to being there as well, because I'm definitely going, so it'll be fantastic. And finally, you know, looking forward, what does the future hold for you, and you know, and what you're doing, and you know, your campaigning and everything?
Well, I hope that by the time that I retire, diversity and inclusion is in engineering is not seen as a tick box exercise. That diversity and inclusion is so embedded that it's like health and safety.
Yeah.
So when you talk about engineering, you're talking health and safety, you don't get a blank look of what you're talking about. What do you mean?
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we are, as AFBE and all the other amazing organizations working in this space, able to say, you know, we've actually made diversity and inclusion part of the fabric and culture of engineering. From a personal perspective, I'm working on some amazing projects at the moment. I'm working on HS2. I know it's controversial, but I am working on HS2. I'm working on projects in Bogota as well, building a Bogota metro. And so I hope that I'm in the position to actually influence design, but not just from a innovation perspective, but from a diversity and inclusion perspective, because until recently, outside of the UK, a lot of countries don't really think about issues around inclusion in terms of disability and things like that. So I'm hoping that I can use my knowledge and expertise to influence those changes and to bring some sort of innovation around how we do design, inclusive design, I call it.
Absolutely. Nikki, that's it. All done. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's been brilliant to speak to you today.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed it.
Okay, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Engineering Success with our very special guest, Dr Nike Folayan MBE, and please follow the tremendous work that Nike does at AFBE-UK by following them on Twitter, Instagram and LinkedIn. All the links can be found on Nike's podcast page. It was amazing to speak with Nike. She and her brother, Dr Ollie Folayan, are making a huge difference to so many people in engineering and the engineering community. And please show your support by attending AFBE Live. It's on the 22nd of April at the IET Savoy Place in London. This will be an amazing event with fantastic speakers, so please support the conference. You can find all the details on their website, which is afbelive.com. I hope to see you all there. If you enjoyed the show, I'd love for you to share it with somebody you feel would benefit from listening to it. You can share it on Instagram or Twitter, and please leave a comment or a rating if you can. Also, subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. We've got some more great guests coming soon. So, until the next episode, have a great day and I hope you succeed in all you do.